There's a pond just outside town. Technically, it's on private land, an old farm on the edge of the tree line, a few miles down a gravel road nobody really uses anymore. It's not marked on most maps, no signs, no trails, but everybody here knows it. They call it Clary's Pond. Back in the 90s, 3 teenagers drowned there. It was the kind of story that hit hard in a place this small, where everyone knows each other's kids, and funerals feel like town meetings. The details were vague, but the story went that they were drinking, swimming after dark, dared each other out too far, and never came back. All 3 bodies were recovered, but nothing else was. There was no investigation, no foul play, no charges, just grief, a few candle vigils, and silence. The pond sits on land that used to belong to a man named William Clary. Most people called him Old Man Clary. He owned one of the last real farms in the county, lived alone, kept to himself. People said he found the bodies, that he was the one who called it in, but he never spoke publicly about it, not once. After the drownings, the town more or less pretended the place didn't exist. Kids stopped biking past it. Hunters stopped tracking deer near the fence line. Even mail carriers turned around at the first fork in the road. But the thing is, Clary never left. He kept the land, kept the house, kept the pond. And then every fall, something new started happening. Livestock went missing. 1 goat here, a cow there, a dog from a neighbor's yard, always at night. No blood, no tracks, just gone. People whispered, but no one ever knocked on Clary's door, and no one ever called the sheriff. Because they all remembered the teens, and they remembered how fast everything had been swept away. By the time I moved to town, Clary was already gone, died in his sleep. No heirs, no sale listing, just a shuttered farmhouse and a pond that no one spoke of. I first heard about it from a co-worker, an offhand joke at a fall festival when someone's goat had gone missing. Maybe the pond got hungry again. I laughed. They didn't. I asked what they meant. They just shook their head and muttered, "Clary feeds it now." I didn't get it, not until I saw the pond for myself. It was a dry January, barely any snow on the ground. I was out driving back roads trying to clear my head when I realized I was near the old Clary property. Curiosity got the better of me. The house was still there, boarded up, fence falling down in places. The pond? Still, dark water, wide, almost too perfect, and not frozen. Every other creek, lake, and drainage ditch for 50 miles was capped in ice, but Clary's pond shimmered like glass. No ripples, no wind, just a quiet surface reflecting the gray winter sky. I got out of my car and stepped closer. There was something deeply wrong about how still it was. No birds, no bugs, no movement at all. I crouched at the edge and saw something beneath the surface, maybe 6 feet down. A shape, pale, drifting. At first I thought it was a rock or maybe a branch. Then it turned slightly, just enough for me to see the outline of a shoulder, a jawline, a face, eyes open, staring up. I stumbled back so hard I fell, crawled halfway to the fence before I could stand. I drove straight to the sheriff's office, told him everything. He listened, nodded, then said, "Don't go back out there." "I saw a body," I told him. "Maybe. Shouldn't someone?" "No one owns that land now. You trespassed." I stared at him. "That's it?" He leaned back in his chair. "Town's been through a lot. We don't dig up what's been buried." I left. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept seeing that pale face floating just below the surface, like it had been waiting. The next morning I went back. I know I shouldn't have, but I had to be sure. The pond was still there, still liquid, still wrong. But this time, there was no body beneath the water, just a ripple, as if something had just sunk out of sight. A week later, a local farmer reported a missing calf. 2 days after that, the school posted a missing pet flyer. One of the teacher's dogs vanished from a fenced yard. I haven't gone back since, but sometimes I hear the others talk. Real quiet at the diner. Leaned in over coffee mugs, voice low. They don't say why the pond never freezes, or how Clary ended up feeding it. only that some things are older than fences. And in towns like this, silence is part of survival. It was one of those road trips I thought I'd remember for the views. Long stretches of highway, empty landscapes, quiet playlists. I was headed nowhere in particular, just west, away from everything that had started to feel too loud. Somewhere in the middle of that nothing, my gas light came on. The map showed a town 5 miles off the highway. One gas station, one diner, one motel. No name I recognized, but I wasn't about to risk running out of fuel in cow country. The gas station looked old. The kind that still had an analog pump and a bell that rang when you drove over the hose. A glowing open sign buzzed in the window, even though the place looked like it hadn't been touched since the 80s. Inside, it was warmer than I expected. Dusty shelves, old fridge humming like it was about to give up, a rack of faded postcards that said things like "Greetings from nowhere" and "You made it," with hand-drawn hills and smiling barns. The clerk was somewhere in the back. "Be out in a second," he called, voice muffled. I walked up to the counter and noticed the notebook. A thick, spiral-bound journal, torn edges, yellowed pages, wedged half under the register like it had been shoved there quickly. The cover just said, "Incidents." Curiosity got the better of me. I pulled it out, opened to the first page. July 17th, 1973, woman came in crying. Said someone left a box of teeth on her porch, told her not to open it. She opened it. I turned the page. August 4th, 1979. 3 people stopped for gas. Never left. Car was found by the quarry. No signs of struggle. Shed door was open next morning. Another. November 12th, 1986. Symbol appeared on pump 2. Circle with teeth. Burned into the metal. We painted over it. My stomach flipped. There were dozens of entries like that. Dated. Brief. Written in the same stiff block letters. Some were no more than a line. Don't accept deliveries from anyone wearing gray. No music after midnight. If the lights flicker, close the register drawer. The weirdest thing? The handwriting didn't change. From 1973 to the last entry, dated just 2 weeks ago. Same pen, same hand, same person? I flipped to the back. There was a rough sketch of a map, just a few street names. One was circled in red ink. The Shed. And below it, never ask, never enter, never look back. Hey. I jumped. The clerk had returned. Mid-30s, shaggy hair, tired eyes. He glanced down at the notebook in my hands. "You didn't see that." I quickly set it down. "Sorry, I thought it was a logbook or something." He didn't answer, just stared at me, like he was deciding what to say, or what I was now. Finally, he said, "Pump 3's good. You can pay after." I nodded, backed out, didn't buy snacks, didn't make small talk. When I went back out, I glanced toward the tree line behind the station. There was a narrow dirt road barely visible between the brush. Overgrown, but worn. Like something used it anyway. I didn't go down it. I should have driven away. But instead, I looked back through the front window of the store. The clerk had picked up the notebook and was writing something new. I left fast. I filled up and drove out of town without even checking the total. Didn't look at the receipt. Didn't stop again for hours. But I couldn't stop thinking about that book. Or the tone in his voice when he said, "You didn't see that." Like it wasn't a warning. Like it was a favor. Later that night, in a motel 2 towns over, I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing the sketch of the map, the red circle. The word Shed written 3 times, darker each time. I Googled the town. Nothing. No articles, no missing persons, no crime reports. It was like the place existed just off the grid of reality. Technically real, but only if you didn't ask the wrong questions. I checked my car the next morning. There was a folded paper on the passenger seat. I hadn't left my doors unlocked. I hadn't parked under lights. But it was there. No words. just a hand-drawn circle, teeth etched around the inside, and in the center, November 23rd. You asked. That's next week. I threw the paper away. I'm not going back. But I haven't stopped checking the back seat every time I get in my car. And I haven't driven at night since. Because if a town has a journal of incidents that spans 50 years, and no one's ever reported it, that's not history. That's maintenance. The milkman. We haven't had a real milkman in this town since the 70s. No delivery trucks, no rattling carts, no uniformed guy with a clipboard and a smile. But every Thursday morning, without fail, glass bottles still show up. Always the same kind. Tall, clear, no label. A little cloudy from age, and always at the same kind of house. The kind where someone just died, in their sleep. No warning, no illness, just didn't wake up. I first noticed it a few months after moving here. An elderly woman on the next block passed away, Miss Lacey. Lived alone, found by a neighbor doing a wellness check. Peaceful, they said. Natural. But that morning, walking my dog past her place, I saw something on her porch, a glass milk bottle, condensation on the sides like it had been placed there minutes ago. I didn't think much of it. Figured maybe it was an old bottle she'd left out. A coincidence, until it happened again. 2 weeks later, a man on the east side, Roger Sykes, also died in his sleep. The morning it hit the paper, I drove by his place. Another bottle. Same kind. Same spot. Left just to the left of the doormat. I asked the clerk at the gas station if anyone still delivered milk out here. She blinked at me like I was joking. No one's done that in decades, she said, then added, quieter. You saw a bottle? I nodded. She went pale. Don't touch it. That's when I realized it wasn't just me noticing this. People knew. They just didn't talk about it. So I started asking, gently, casually. Everyone had the same answer. It's always been like that. We don't mess with the bottles. No one sees who leaves them. It's not our business. That last one stuck with me. I looked through old obituaries, correlated the addresses. There was a pattern. Every Thursday after a mysterious death, a bottle appeared. Never on other days. Never in advance. Always after. Like a calling card. Like a ritual. One Thursday, I stayed up. Sat in my car just down the street from a home where a woman, mid-40s, healthy, had died 2 days prior. No cause listed. No funeral scheduled yet. 3:42 a.m. A man walked out of the fog. I say man, but I couldn't see his face. Just the outline. Tall. Long coat, no sound, no headlights. He didn't knock, he didn't hesitate. He placed a single bottle on the step, stood there for maybe 10 seconds, then turned and walked away. By the time I got out of the car, he was gone. Not down the street, not around the corner, just gone. I walked up to the porch, stared at the bottle. Something about it felt wrong, like it was humming, but too low for sound, like the air around it was heavier than it should be. I wanted to pick it up, just to see. But I didn't, because I remembered what they'd said. Don't touch the bottles. The next day, it was gone. No one claimed to have moved it. Not the family, not the coroner, not the cleanup crew. Just gone. Weeks passed. Another death, another bottle. Always Thursday. Always gone by morning. Then one night, I found one on my porch. Chilled, dew-beaded, sitting just left of my doormat. No one had died here. No one was sick. But it was there. I stared at it for an hour. Didn't touch it. Didn't open the door. Just watched. It stayed all night. By morning, it was gone. That week, I didn't sleep much. I kept wondering, was it a mistake, a warning, or a reservation? Because if the milkman's route never changed, that means he always comes back. The twin rule. You hear a lot of odd things when you move to a small town. Old stories, local sayings, superstitions passed off as tradition. Most of them are harmless, like not whistling after dark, or always waving at the railroad crossing. But this one stuck with me. Twins don't live in the same house. I heard it the first week I moved here. Said offhand at the diner, when the waitress dropped a plate and muttered, "Good thing the Rogers boys don't live together. Bad luck enough as it is." I asked what she meant. She smiled but didn't answer. Later I asked a neighbor. He just said, "That's the twin rule." Like that explained everything. I didn't press it. Figured it was just one of those weird small-town quirks. Like how they repaint the water tower every spring even though it doesn't need it. Or how they hold a moment of silence every October 9th without saying why. Then I met the Wexlers, Daniel and Thomas. Identical twins. Late 30s. Moved back into their childhood home to take care of their mother after her stroke. I met them at the post office. Friendly guys. Funny. Said they were remodeling the old place. Trying to make it livable again. I asked if they were both staying there. They nodded. "Just temporary," Thomas said. But yeah. The postmaster, sorting mail behind them, froze for half a second. Didn't say anything. Just watched them leave with this weird, tight look on his face. That's when I remembered the rule. Twins don't live in the same house. I mentioned it to the twins later. Joking, mostly. Daniel laughed. "Yeah, we've heard that one since we were kids." "Did anyone ever explain it?" I asked. "Not really," he said. "Our mom used to say it wasn't safe. That we should always have separate roofs once we hit a certain age." Thomas added, "She told us it was about balance. That having two identical souls in one place tipped something." They both rolled their eyes. Said it was superstition, small-town weirdness. That was a Tuesday. By the following Monday, their house was gone. Burned to the ground in the middle of the night. The fire department came, but too late. Total loss. The official story? Electrical fire. But people who saw it said the flames started from the outside. Said they saw something burning on the porch before the windows blew out. No one was hurt. The twins weren't home. They'd driven their mom to a doctor's appointment 2 towns over and stayed overnight at a motel. Lucky, I guess. No investigation. No arson charges. Just ashes and insurance forms. And one note, pinned to their smoldering mailbox with a rusted nail. "One's always enough." The sheriff didn't take it in as evidence. Just tossed it in the back of his cruiser like it was a prank. But the twins didn't rebuild. They didn't even speak publicly about it. Thomas moved in with a friend out of state. Daniel got a small apartment above the pharmacy. They haven't lived under the same roof since. People in town don't talk about it. But the rule still stands. Twins here always live apart. Always. And the few who try to test it, don't try twice. The sheriff's son. Everyone in town remembers the crash. It was a rainy Saturday 2 years ago. Word spread fast. Sheriff Macklin's son, Ryan, wrapped his truck around a tree on Old Quarry Road. Dead on impact, 22. Home from college for the summer. The town grieved like it was their own blood. Every church bell rang. Every flag was lowered. The high school dedicated a new scoreboard in his name. I was there at the funeral. Everyone was. Closed casket. Big turnout. Sheriff Macklin didn't say a word. Just stood at the front, hands folded tight, face blank. After that, life moved on. Kind of. People didn't bring Ryan up much, like it was too painful, or too complicated. Just one of those wounds the town agreed not to poke. Until last week. I was driving home late after work, past midnight, empty road, just me and the trees. That's when the lights came on behind me, red and blue, flashing in the mirror. I pulled over, heart thumping. I wasn't speeding, I wasn't drunk, but it's a habit. You see lights, you stop. The cruiser pulled in close, too close. Door opened, boots on gravel. I rolled my window down halfway, and then I saw his face. It was Ryan, not someone who looked like him. Him. Same jawline, same scar by his eye, same hair he used to keep just long enough to break the dress code. I sat frozen. He leaned down, expression unreadable. No badge, no nameplate. Just a clean uniform and that same dead stare his father always had. He looked me over, said nothing, then finally, "You didn't see me. You don't know me." And he walked back to the cruiser, pulled away. No siren, no paperwork, just gone. I sat there shaking, convinced I'd imagined it, but I hadn't. Because the next day, I drove by the sheriff's office, and the cruiser that pulled me over, it was parked right out front. Same plate, same dent in the rear bumper. Later, I asked someone at the diner, casually, if the sheriff ever hired new deputies. The waitress, without looking up, said, "Not in years." I pushed a little. "You ever see anyone driving his old cruiser?" She shrugged. "Don't think so. Might have loaned it out for parts." No one talked about Ryan anymore, but that week I started watching closer. One night, I saw the sheriff's office lights on at 2 a.m. Another, I saw the cruiser circling the town square. No headlights, just coasting. I asked an old friend, a guy who used to date Ryan's sister, if there was more to the story. He just said, "Don't ask about that. Especially not out loud." Then he added, "The funeral was closed casket for a reason." I pressed. He didn't answer. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the way Ryan looked at me, like he'd been watching, like he recognized me, even though I barely knew him when he was alive. The next morning, I checked the obituary again. No autopsy mentioned, no death certificate on public record, no police report filed, just a date, a name, and a funeral everyone attended. And now, a cruiser with no driver, a town with no questions, and a boy who supposedly died still patrolling the roads like nothing ever happened. I don't know who's in that uniform, but I know what I saw, and I know what he told me. "You didn't see me, you don't know me. In this town, that's not a warning, it's a rule." The man at the railroad crossing. Every Thursday night at exactly 11:48 p.m., a man stands at the old railroad crossing on Sycamore Lane. It doesn't matter what the weather's like. Rain, snow, blistering heat. He's there. Same coat. Same faded red baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. Same stillness, like he's been carved out of whatever's holding him together. The tracks haven't been active in decades. They were shut down long before I moved to town. Rusted through, half covered by weeds, just another forgotten landmark that the map still clings to like a bad memory. The trains stopped, but he didn't. People say he lost his daughter there. Back in the early 80s, she was last seen riding her bike home after school. Never made it. Some say she slipped. Others whisper about a stranger passing through town, but nobody really knows. There was no train scheduled, no witnesses. Just a bike found crumpled beside the tracks. And a town too polite to ask questions it didn't want the answers to. Her name was Amelia, and her father was Dennis Rourke. Since the week she vanished, he's come to the crossing every Thursday night, 15 minutes before midnight. Like clockwork. Most people just drive by. They lower their music. They don't look too hard. They don't slow down. Because that's the rule. You don't stop. But I didn't know the rule the first time I saw him. I was new in town, 3 weeks into a rental lease I thought would be temporary. It was a Thursday night. I'd just gotten off the late shift and was taking the back road home to avoid construction. And then there he was, standing perfectly still in the middle of the tracks, the red glow of my taillights throwing his shadow across the asphalt. It startled me. I slowed down, rolled down my window and called out, "Sir? You all right?" He didn't answer, just stood there. I pulled over and stepped out, more annoyed than concerned. It was late, and I didn't want to be responsible for someone getting hit or hurt, even if no trains came through. As I approached, he turned his head slightly. His eyes were empty. Not wide, not angry, just vacant, like a man who'd been staring at the same place for so long he couldn't see it anymore. Then he said, "Have you seen her?" His voice was dry, hollow, like it had been scraped out of his throat instead of spoken. I blinked. "Who?" He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small folded piece of paper. It was a photo. He held it up without looking at it, and my stomach dropped. It was a picture of my daughter, not a look-alike, her. Same messy braid, same chipped tooth smile, same unicorn t-shirt she wore to her second-grade field trip last month. A picture I took. I snatched the photo from his hand. "Where did you get this?" He didn't answer, just turned back toward the tracks and stared into the woods. My pulse was racing. I spun around, scanned the road. There was no one else, no camera. No way he could have known who I was or who she was. I backed away, got in my car, slammed the door. He didn't move, not once. I drove home like a man escaping a crime scene. Ran every stop sign. Didn't breathe until I saw my porch light. Inside, I sprinted to my daughter's room. She was sound asleep. Safe. Alive. Exactly where she was supposed to be. I locked every door and window and sat in the living room all night, staring at the photo in my hand. It was real. Glossy. Bent in the same corner as the one on our fridge. But ours was still on the fridge. The next day, I told a few people about what happened. The man, the photo, the time, the tracks. No one looked surprised. One woman at the post office said, "You stopped?" Like that was the worst part. A guy at the bar said, "He does that. Has for years. Just let him be." When I asked how he had a photo of my daughter, no one had an answer. I heard the full story later from Marlene, a retired school secretary who's lived here her whole life. She told me about Amelia, the missing posters, the way Dennis changed after, how no one saw him for weeks until one Thursday, he just appeared, standing at the crossing like he'd never left. But the photos? That part was different. They started maybe 10 years ago, she said. People who stopped, he'd show them a picture, never the same one, but always someone they knew. How's that possible? She looked me dead in the eye. That's the part we don't ask about. I haven't taken the Sycamore route since. Every Thursday at 11:48 I stay home, lights off, phone down, curtains closed. And every now and then, when the wind dies and the air feels too still, I check my watch and wonder if he's there again. Holding another photo, waiting for the next person who forgets the rule. You don't stop. You don't ask. You don't see her. The Forgotten School. I only found the school because I got lost. Took a wrong trail behind the park, veered off past the creek, and ended up in a clearing I'd never seen before. Overgrown, quiet. The kind of place that feels like it's holding its breath. At the far edge was a building. 2 stories. Rusted tin roof. Windows boarded from the inside. A cracked stone plaque above the door, half buried in moss. East Briar Schoolhouse. Establishment 1952. I'd never heard of it. When I asked around, a few people nodded like they vaguely remembered it. Oh yeah, that old place, closed after the fire. But when I asked when, or what kind of fire, the conversation always died. No one wanted to talk about it, so I checked the town records, building permits, historical registries, newspaper archives. There was no fire, not even a single mention. What I did find was a string of missing persons reports from 1987. 5 students, all from the same week, all from the same classroom. No details, just the names, dates, and one recurring note in every file. Unresolved, presumed runaway. But 5 kids in 5 days, all from the same class? That doesn't happen by accident. So I went back. The front door was chained shut, but one of the side windows had rotted through. I pulled myself up and slid inside. The air smelled like wet wood and dust. The building was mostly gutted, graffiti on the walls, ceiling tiles collapsed, floorboards warped from years of rain. But one room on the first floor was different. Intact. No graffiti, no broken glass. Just 24 desks in neat rows, all facing a chalkboard still covered in old math problems, and carved into 5 of those desks, names. I recognized them, from the reports. Deep etchings, like someone dug them in with a pocket knife. Letters uneven, desperate. I walked between the desks. The wood creaked under my boots. Each name felt heavier than the last. It didn't feel abandoned. It felt paused, like someone was still waiting to finish a lesson that never ended. At the back of the room, I found a box. Inside, class photos, black and white, dated, but clear. There they were, the 5 missing kids, smiling, alive, holding construction paper turkeys and fake diplomas. And behind them, arms folded, stood the teacher. Same in every photo, every year. No name listed, just a face, neutral, expressionless, staring straight into the lens. When I brought the photos to the Historical Society, the woman behind the desk didn't even look at them. She said, "You're not the first one to come asking, but if you're smart, you'll be the last." I asked what happened. She didn't answer, just added, "No one teaches back there anymore. No one ever will." I went back one more time, found a narrow staircase leading down to a basement, half flooded, molded walls, old school supplies floating in ankle-deep water. But something caught my eye, nailed to the far wall. A class schedule, handwritten, dates crossed out, names erased, except one. The teacher's, still there, still scheduled, every day, same time, same room, like someone still expected him to show up. I left and never went back. But sometimes, when I drive past the tree line, I swear I see a sliver of light through the boards, just for a second. The girl from the forest. She just showed up one day. No warning, no name. Barefoot, filthy, maybe 14. Walked straight out of the tree line onto Route 6 like she'd been wandering her whole life. A couple in a pickup saw her first, stopped, and asked if she was okay. She didn't answer, just stared at them, wide-eyed, blank. They brought her to the sheriff's office. The whole town buzzed about it. In a place like ours, nothing goes unnoticed, especially not a girl like that. Sheriff Harville told the papers she must have wandered off from one of the communes a few miles out. There's a couple that lives off-grid, private, mostly harmless. She'll talk when she's ready, he said. She never did. Not once. She was placed with a foster couple on the south end of town, Mike and Lorna Wells. Good people, retired. Used to foster before. Took her in without hesitation. The town welcomed her, gave her clothes, shoes, school supplies. She didn't say thank you, didn't say anything. The first week, people made excuses. She's just scared. She's been through something. She needs time. By week 2, the excuses stopped. The stories started. Kids at school said she stared at people too long. Teachers said she never blinked. One kid swore he saw her standing in his backyard at 2 a.m. Then the first boy went missing. Jesse Miles. Sophomore. Ran track. Lived 2 blocks from the school. They said he never came home after practice. Search parties went out. They found his shoes in the woods. Nothing else. The sheriff said it must have been an accident. These woods run deep. People get turned around. The town believed him. Mostly. Until a week later, when a teacher disappeared. Mr. Tolland. Social studies. Mid-40s. Clean record. Left his classroom after 6th period. Never made it to the parking lot. His car was still there the next morning. Still locked. His jacket still on the chair inside. The girl never reacted. Never asked what happened. Never flinched when they made the announcements. A few people started whispering. Theories. Accusations. But no one said them out loud. Not yet. Then it happened again. Mike and Lorna, the couple fostering her, didn't show up for church, or work, or anything. Neighbors knocked. No answer. Sheriff went to check, said they must have left town unexpectedly. Their car was gone. No sign of struggle. No reason to panic, he told us. But the girl stayed behind. They moved her to a group home near the river. She didn't protest, didn't pack, just stood in the driveway and climbed into the back of the cruiser when they told her to. After that, no one disappeared. Not one person. The tension broke. People went back to living, sort of. She stayed for 3 more days. Then she vanished. No sign of her at the group home. Bed untouched. No forced entry. No footprints. Just gone. The sheriff said she must have run back to where she came from. probably the woods. But no one went looking. Not this time. No search party. No flyers. Not a single news story. And still, no one else has gone missing. It's been 2 years. Every now and then, a new family moves in. The kind that doesn't know what happened. Their kids ask about the quiet girl in the faded class photo. The one with the 2 wide eyes and no name on her badge. We just tell them she moved, back to the forest, and we all hope she stays there.